My name is Sean Walchef. I am a paid consultant and creator for Toast. I traveled to Boston to their new headquarters to interview their new Chief Marketing Officer, Kelly Eston, for this special episode. We hope you enjoy.
Welcome to Restaurant Influencers presented by Entrepreneur. I am your host, Sean Walchef. This is a Cali BBQ Media production. We are coming to you from the new Toast headquarters in Seaport, Boston. We are in the basketball arena, and I am here with the new Chief Marketing Officer, Kelly Eston. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Sean.
Thank you for having us.
We're so glad you're here in the new office. It looks amazing, and it's so fun to be filming in the basketball court.
This is very exciting for us. For those that have been listening to this show, we've been doing this show now for 3 years, and Toast is a title sponsor of the show. So we're grateful that you continue to believe in not only technology, not only hospitality, but also storytelling. You are the first Chief Marketing Officer that we've had on the show.
Cool.
And we're really excited to learn more about your journey.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much for being such a great promoter of Toast and supporter of Toast and telling your story.
Thank you. So in life, in the restaurant business, and in the new creator economy, we learn through lessons and stories. Can you tell me where in the world is your favorite stadium, stage, or venue?
You know, we had a whole discussion about this over breakfast this morning in my house. My husband tells me it's Lambeau Field in Wisconsin. I've never been there, but he says that should be my favorite stadium. He's from Wisconsin, big Packers fan. So all the boys in my house are Packers fans. But I'd have to say, for me personally, it's probably Madison Square Garden. First ever concert was there. I'm more of a music person than a sports person. Grew up outside New York City, and so a lot of good memories from going up there.
So the magic of storytelling, we are going to go to Madison Square Garden. I'm going to talk to the Chief Marketing Officer at Toast, and we are going to talk to all of Toast partners, and we are going to figure out, how do we rent out the arena? How do we put on a Spark event? But more importantly, how do we bring you on stage to share the marketing journey? I need you to bring us back to day one at Toast, your day one at Toast.
My day one at Toast. So my day one at Toast was not in this office. Our old offices were in an incubator near Fenway, where there had been dozens of startups, but Toast had been growing so fast that we took over kind of each space next to each of the startups. And so one of the things that I remember really well is the carpet changed every 50 feet or so in the office. And they had taken all the doors and windows out of the old offices from, I think what was probably like an insurance company or something. And there were just desks everywhere. Marketing was about 12 people at the time. We now are bringing actually 200 marketing and BD people together across the company here to the headquarters later this week for our first marketing offsite, which we're really excited about. So things have changed a lot since those early days, but it's been an amazing journey, and a lot of what we're doing today dates back to those early days of Toast Marketing as well. A lot of the same people are here, and a lot of the same things we talk about as far as, really focusing on the independent restaurant are the same.
Can you bring us back? We were fortunate to come here for sales kickoff, and on this show we interviewed Aman, co-founder and new CEO of Toast.
Yes.
Can you bring us to your first meeting of Aman?
Yes.
Tell us the story.
Yeah, I had been at another kind of high growth startup here in Boston and was looking for my next opportunity and got connected directly to Aman. And I met him at the old office, and we walked to a coffee shop that was a Toast restaurant to go see kind of Toast in action and have a conversation. It wasn't really a formal interview. And I remember there was a certain topic that was on his mind at the time. And we spent the entire walk to the coffee shop, got our coffee, and walked back to the office, kind of debating this one topic, and I was taking the other side. And I remember coming back to the office and thinking, well, he either really likes me or he really doesn't, because I just kind of argued with him for the last 45 minutes, and that was my first interview at Toast. But it was, a fun debate. I learned a ton about him, about Toast, about how he thinks about the world. And I came back, probably less than a week later and met the whole kind of team at Toast. And 7 years later, here I am.
Can you bring us to the beginning of your career at Toast, and what were your expectations and what were your lessons learned?
Yeah, coming in, I always remember those first couple of weeks, Toast was growing really fast, was getting a lot of traction with restaurants at that time. And, we definitely had product market fit. Restaurants were using our point of sale across the country, and things were going really well. So job number one was do no harm, like learn what's working, make sure that we're building on that early success that we had, really building alongside restaurants is what made us so successful. You hear these stories about Iman and Steve in restaurants coding, while Friday night dinner service was happening. And those early experiences really shaped the Toast culture and Toast marketing. And so, my expectation was to come in and contribute to the team. And it was very much a all hands on deck scenario. Jobs were not as well defined. There was a lot to do. And so I had the opportunity to work with a lot of our partners early on, to work with our product team to bring new products to market. We launched, my very first product launch was the Toast Go handheld, the original Toast Go handheld. And one of the things that I remember about that is that we sent people to a restaurant in Austin, and we gave Fitbits to all the servers. And half the servers had pen and paper, and half of them had Toast Go's. And we recorded their night. Like, how many steps did you take? How many table touches did you do? How many people did you serve? What were your tips? And so that was the case study that we launched the Toast Go with. And of course, the people with the Toast Go had less steps, higher tips, better table turn times. And it was a great kind of example of what you can do with marketing, and a really, what at the time was a very unique and exciting product that really had a big impact on Toast.
One of the things, I'm obviously a little bit biased, but one of the things that I've loved working with Toast and seeing how you operate is the sales and the marketing ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And I think, in our experience, a lot of that is segmented. When I came here today for the first time, you guys share a floor together.
Yes.
Can you talk about the pillar of the foundation of how Toast is built?
Yeah, we have an absolutely great partnership between sales and marketing, and that's something you hear, right? This classic story of, sales and marketing alignment is key to everyone's success, and it's really true, and we're lucky to have that at Toast. And, I think it's because we have a culture of collaboration, and this idea of one team is one of our most important values at Toast. And the sales team and the marketing team really do feel like one team. They have shared goals. It's not like, marketing gives leads and, sales does the deals. We really feel responsibility for each other's success and work in really close partnership every day. So our marketing team talks to sales every day. We take our events out on the road as an opportunity to spend time not only with our customers and our prospects, but also our own sales teams and our partners who are out in the market. And that really creates this kind of shared sense of purpose. And, it's all about the restaurants at the end of the day.
Can you talk about B2B marketing and why Toast has such a competitive advantage in the space?
Oh, big topic. What's fun about restaurants is that it is B2B marketing, but there's a little bit of a B2B/C feeling to it. So first of all, when we're talking about independent restaurants, because there are so many independent restaurants, one of the great things about this market is there's restaurants all over the United States. We have the opportunity to work with many of them and to have a conversation that's more authentic and unique than what you might think of in traditional B2B marketing, where you're talking to a big company on the other side. And so something we always trying to remember is the person on the other side of the marketing email or the ad, or how we're trying to reach them. And so something we spend a lot of time doing is talking to our customers. You participate in this today in our customer advisory board about how we're talking about Toast, what value they're seeing, and then really letting restaurants tell their own stories, because it's much more impactful and authentic and true when a restaurant can say, hey, here's how I'm using Toast and here's my story, than what we can say. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about how do we bring restaurants into the conversation? How do we have them tell their stories to each other? And then how do we make it feel like that B2C feeling in a B2B environment? And, if you think about restaurants, we're talking to you, but ultimately it's all about your guest. And so there is a consumer at the end of the line here, whether we're designing a product that they're going to interact with, or we're talking to, how Toast shows up in your restaurant, that is going to impact your guests and your consumers. So we have to think all the way through to the end when we're designing our marketing and our products.
And now a quick break from restaurant influencers to welcome our newest sponsor to the show. It's Zach Oates, the founder of Ovation.
Ovation is helping restaurants to improve operations with the human touch. We are a guest experience platform for multi-unit restaurants like Friendly's, Muya, PDQ, Taziki's, and even Cali Barbecue, with thousands of others, that starts with a 2-question survey and drives revenue, location level improvement, and guest recovery. So here's how it works. The guest answers 2 questions. The first one is, how was your experience? And then from there, happy guests are invited to do things that are going to drive revenue, and unhappy guests share privately what went wrong, so you and your team can resolve that concern in real time. Our AI will even help you do that. Then the magic happens. We take all the public reviews, we take all the Ovation feedback, we categorize it using our AI, and give you detailed feedback in 34 restaurant-specific categories to improve your operations. So we make sure that guests feel good, that you look good. And if you're interested in learning more, visit ovationup.com/Sean, because any listener of Sean's is a friend of Ovation's.
Can you talk about the localized approach
Yeah.
and why it's so vital to Toast success as you continue to expand internationally as well?
Yeah. You know, restaurateurs talk to each other a lot.
Yes, we do.
And something I've learned in the industry, whether you're talking about, you know, a main strip in a small town, you know, I live in a suburb about 10 miles outside of Boston, and there's kind of a center street that has, I don't know, half a dozen or a dozen restaurants on it. They feel like a community. They all know each other. They all share notes. They don't think about each other as the competition. They really think about each other as the restaurant community in our hometown. All the way up through enterprise, we see the same thing. You know, my enterprise customers who have 200, 300, 500 stores, they all know each other, they all share notes, they're friends, they see each other at conferences on a regular basis. And so no matter what size and scale you're talking about, what we see is that restaurants are more of a community than they are competitors. And so as a result, what we see in our business is that, you know, a lot of our growth comes from referrals. Comes from restaurants talking to each other, comes to restaurants talking to partners in our ecosystem, local partners in their ecosystems, the accountants who are helping them run their books, or the marketing agencies who are helping them with their marketing. That's where our best referrals come from, is other restaurants. And so the local approach means we're putting Toasters into those communities. They're walking the main street. We call them the mayors of their towns. Yep. The best ones. And so they're investing in knowing who those great restaurants are in town, helping them be successful, getting to know the ecosystem, and really investing in the community. And then from a marketing perspective, we come over top and support that, whether it's with a Spark Local, or highlighting restaurants with a case study, or finding a way to highlight like local stories. When that starts going, we call it a flywheel. And you'll actually see us talk on earnings calls about our flywheel markets. And as Toast grows in a market, we get more successful, not less, as we penetrate that area. And we find that restaurants are really sharing notes and talking about Toast and helping each other become successful.
Can you talk about the partnership ecosystem?
Sure. So we have over 200 integration partners on Toast. We plug in new technologies every month. We actually brought the partner ecosystem under our marketing organization recently, so I get the opportunity to see all the new technologies coming onto Toast each month, which is really fun. And, you know, we think about it as, how do we help restaurants solve whatever challenge it is that they have in front of them? So from a ecosystem perspective, you know, what we try and do is put the customer at the center and say, you know, Toast is, of course, wants to solve a lot of problems for restaurants and help them be successful with technology. But there's lots of other things out there that we're not doing, or some even that we are, but someone's got a different angle on it, or a different take, or a different way of looking at the world. And so our job is to bring those all onto the Toast platform and make them available to our customers. And when we do that, what we find is that our customers are happier. You know, the majority of our customers use at least one more technology other than Toast. And they actually end up doing more business with Toast over time because they see the value in the ecosystem and the ability to grow and add things as their business needs change.
We are fortunate that we sit in a seat where we talk to a lot of technology partners that are best in class, that integrate with Toast. And can you share a little bit about what do the best partners do that sets them apart? And if anybody that is listening to this and they want to be a partner, obviously there's ways for them to go about that, but what are the best practices?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we have a Toast ecosystem you can apply to be a Toast partner right on our website. And the way, we think about it is what are the gaps we need to fill for our customers or new technologies we want to make available? And then what are our customers asking for? It goes back to what our customers want. And we find the partners that are most successful in the Toast ecosystem are the ones that treat us like an extension of their team and vice versa. They really treat it like a true partnership. We solve together for the customer. We communicate. Many of them hop in on our Slack channels and are talking to Toast team members all the time. So we have the opportunity to really treat them like an extension of our team and find ways to make customers successful together. So those ones tend to take off on our ecosystem.
Can you talk about mentorship?
Yes. I've been very lucky to have a lot of great mentors in my career, not just at Toast, but before Toast. But when I think about mentorship at Toast, I think about our prior CMO, Kevin Hamilton, was a huge mentor of mine, someone who taught me a lot about marketing, but also leadership, and gave me opportunities to learn and grow, but also I think about mentorship and sponsorship as two different things. And Kevin was not only a mentor, but a sponsor, someone who, helped me set up for my next thing. And Aman was someone like that for me as well. And when, I think about my role as a leader now in Toast, that's a lot of the job is how do you get the right people and set them up for success and help them grow their careers? Because that's what inspires people to do great work. And people work for people. Just like we, talk about restaurants as in the end, it's people sharing ideas and wanting to make people successful in the ecosystem. We see the same thing within our Toast ecosystem here.
What did you learn about sales from your father?
Oh, yes. You read my notes.
It's my job.
It's your job to read the notes. So, I shared with Sean in the pre-work that I've been in sales 3 times. And it's something that, I like to think makes me a better marketer. Because at the end of the day, our job in marketing is to make sales successful, make our customers successful. And so understanding what it's like to be in sales is really helpful when you're trying to figure out as a marketer, how can I get all of these amazing products and value and things I want to communicate about Toast to make it easy for someone to sit down across the table from a restaurant owner and say, okay, here's why you should buy Toast and here's why it's going to make your business more successful. It's really hard to distill that down to a single conversation. And so having sat in that seat helps a lot. And my dad spent his entire career in sales. Very first job out of college, cold calling. He used to tell me he'd just cold call out of the phone book to sell muni bonds was his very first job. And by the way, that was my first job too, just sitting on a sales desk, cold calling as well as an intern in college.
For anybody that's listening that might happen to be listening to this about cold calling? What have you learned? A lesson learned?
Just keep going. You get a lot of no's, and it can be hard to pick up the phone. Cold calling is about practice, putting in the reps, waking up every day with the discipline to do it. And remembering, I think it goes back to remembering that there's another person on the other side who probably doesn't want to talk to you. And so how do you make sure that you are being respectful of that, getting your message across cleanly, and then just, continuing to follow up. And that's the advice my dad always gave me each time I've taken a job in sales. My first job out of college, leading enterprise sales at my last company, and then when I took on an enterprise role here at Toast, was, a lot of it's about the relationship and following up and doing what you say you're going to do. And so as you get into these relationships, sales is a relationship like any other, making sure that you set the right expectations, you do what you're going to say you're going to do, you follow up, you follow through. And we feel that way, here too.
Can you talk about your approach personally to social media and to LinkedIn specifically? Because it's something that we talk about on this show. We talk about it to whoever will listen if you're in sales or in marketing, but we don't have to go and create these platforms. They're already there. And there's incredible people that are waiting for thought leadership if you have the courage to post. Can you talk about when you started posting and what you've learned by posting?
Yeah. I think it kind of happened slowly and then got some momentum. And I think that's one of the lessons learned is when you start posting, it can feel silly or like you're speaking into a void and no one cares about what you have to say, or even that it's hard to come up with things to say. But what I found when I got more structured about it and when I put a little bit more time into it over the past couple of years, I'd say, is that it starts to build momentum and it becomes about the community. And that I found that the time I was investing offline and going to things like conferences and meeting new people, even in sales environments, translated back to my LinkedIn presence because it was a way to continue the conversation in between the conferences. And I found that my LinkedIn presence got traction when I was able to connect those experiences together and make those connections between those offline and those online relationships. For me, that's been a more authentic way to engage is, I can reshare every Toast newsroom post. And I do that because that's part of, what I want people to see. But the pieces that get the most traction and the places where I get the most value out of the LinkedIn community are when it's more personal. It's sharing about, something I've done or a place I've gone or a picture of, me with some customers or even with my kids. And that creates that feeling of community that keeps you coming back and makes it easy to come up with what the next post is going to be.
Can you talk about having the courage as a woman in a leadership position in tech for sharing that voice?
Yeah, I've always enjoyed being a woman in tech. Elena has this great quote about, being different in the room can be a real strength, and finding a way to use that for positive and to make that a strength. And I have found over the past couple of years, I've gained the confidence to share more of my authentic self, including, and I see you do this as well, including my family, including that I have kids, including, where I'm traveling, what I'm doing for work. And when you bring kind of your whole self both to work and to those online platforms, I think it makes it easier to show up as a woman in tech or whatever it is, because it's just who you are. And people see that whole self. And, one of the things I talk to a lot about employees here at Toast is balancing work and family, and how to do that in a career like the one that I have that does include all of those things, including travel. And when you kind of bring that whole picture to you, people are more willing to engage on that broader range of topics and ask you questions and get more involved.
Social media from a brand standpoint, take us outside of the trees and into the forest. How do you look at it from a brand perspective for Toast?
Yeah, social media is a place where it's an opportunity to have a little more fun. Something I talk to the team a lot about is how lucky we are to work in hospitality. People are in hospitality because they love food, they love people, they love their local communities. And usually there's some fun there too. And so social media is the place where we can have the brand come to life and lean into hospitality and that mindset that comes with it. And so something that we think about from a brand perspective is, how do we want to show up on our social channels that we own? But just as importantly, or maybe even more importantly, how are we empowering the rest of the social media community, our customers, influencers, our partners, even just people who might go out and eat in a Toast restaurant and share their experience? How do we enable them, give them the tools to be successful, and bring them back into the conversation and make it a real conversation versus us just putting out our own posts? And we find that the times we're most successful on social is when it gives people a reason to share, a way to interact, a way to join the conversation, and a platform for restaurants to share their own stories. And so that's a place that we're investing more and more on, adding more channels, adding more content types, leaning in more to video as we continue to grow social. It's such an important part of what we do.
Can you share more about video? Obviously, we're a little
You
little
like video
biased.
here? Oh my gosh.
We're big into video. We're
digging the video.
If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please go watch it on YouTube because you get to enjoy the beautiful mural. Can you share about the mural?
Yes. So one of our toasters, Chloe Rubenstein, painted this mural. She is incredibly talented and has actually painted murals at many Toast customers and restaurants around Boston as well. This was totally her own inspiration. We kind of gave her the space and told her to go at it. And so there's spaghetti and meatballs, and the meatballs are Toast basketballs, if you can't quite make out what's behind us. And it's been such a visual focal point of the office. It's kind of become one of our defining features of the office.
A place where we should record a
where we can record a
restaurant
podcast.
influencers
Exactly. Every
episode.
time we share photos of the
Yes.
office, this is the thing that everyone gravitates to. It's beautiful.
So can you share how do you take the idea of video? Because I think it's a huge thing that isn't talked about enough, because when you get to the simplification of what do social platforms want,
Yeah.
TikTok wants it, Instagram wants it, Facebook wants it, YouTube wants it. Video is where we need to go, but video is expensive.
It can be, but when we think about video, and content in general for social, we're thinking about how do we bring content that's designed for social first versus repurposing content is important. We do that too, but we really want to bring things that are social first forward, because again, that's what's going to be most successful. And to your point, Reels and TikTok is what people are engaging with. I mean, I see it myself when I'm scrolling mindlessly at the end of the day, we're on video looking at what's happening. And so, again, we think about how can we enable our customers, partners, team members to share more video, and then how can we go, invest in video and then use it as many places as we can. And I think, there's new tools coming out all the time that are making video less expensive. So one of the things we're starting to explore, and I'm starting to talk to other CMOs about, is how are we using AI for video? How are we using, how can you create some more content without going and setting up, a very expensive video shoot? There are more and more ways to make that possible.
Can you talk about community within Toast?
Within Toast?
Yes.
With the Toasters?
Restaurant community.
Restaurant community within Toast. Say more.
So you're building community. You have events like we're here right now for the
Okay.
customer advisory board. You have a CAB enterprise level
Yes.
customer advisory board. Why is it so important to get restaurateurs? I flew all the way from San Diego to Boston. We have people from literally all over the country, all
Yes.
different sizes, coming to meet here. Why is that so important?
Yeah, for us, it's twofold. One is the community is what it's all about at the end of the day. And so it's an opportunity when we bring you all to our space, it's an opportunity for you to see what Toast is about, for our restaurant community to learn what Toast is about, and for you to engage more deeply with Toasters. There's a lot you can learn over Zoom and a lot you can do over email and Slack, but there is those side conversations that happen, I think, is where the magic is. And so there's nothing that beats in person, especially in the hospitality industry where we're actually delivering food in person at the end of the day. And so that's a big part of it. And when we think about community, we really think about the community of restaurants sharing ideas with each other. And often it's about us having the opportunity to watch that happen. And when we can bring the restaurant community together, they often are finding that they're working on the same challenges, they're sharing ideas, they're coming up with similar solutions, and then we can watch that happen and say, okay, we can connect those dots and help drive better solutions for you from our technology. And even today, when we had our SMB or our independent restaurant customer advisory board together, I was hearing some of the same themes as we heard at our last enterprise customer advisory board. And when we can start to pull together those common threads, we can really make sure we're building the right things for the restaurant community. And it helps create more momentum for our customers and for Toast. It's all about helping people share best practices and get the best success at the end of the day.
For me, I hear a lot of companies talk about community, but they don't back it up the way that you guys do. And what I've seen in CAB participating for the last 2 years, watching products like the Toast Now app literally get built right in front of us with our feedback. I mean, having Aman sitting in the room, Steve sitting in the rooms, Chris, you, so many of the executive leaders, but then listening to the words that come out of our mouths actually get put and developed into the technology that's coming into our fingertips. Can you talk about the Toast Now launch?
Yeah, the Toast Now launch was really special. And one of the things that was really rewarding for me to see is that we actually launched a video alongside about how it was built, because it was built with our customers. And, there was all this great footage about, what do you want to add next? And what's the next question you would ask if you're looking at this data on your phone? And as a result of us working so deeply to build it with our customers, it was one of our most successful launches yet. As far as how many restaurants downloaded it and used it every day, it was absolutely by far and away one of the biggest launches we've had. So Toast Now has been super successful, as well as, something that's really helped us give back to restaurants by adding a new feature to the point of sale that they've been asking for a long time.
What new products do you have coming out in 2024 that you can share?
So yeah, lots of things we can't share yet. No, just kidding.
Those are on the roadmap.
Those are on the roadmap.
That's tech
the
talk.
next question,
That's tech
right?
talk.
Is the
Yeah,
roadmap?
what's on the roadmap?
We actually just had our semi-annual Spark launch. So Spark is a moment we celebrate kind of all the innovation going on within the Toast platform twice a year. And we launched 3 new suites, what we call suites, to Toast. So one is our restaurant management suite. And the thing about the restaurant management suite that I think many of us are most excited about is the benchmarking. Benchmarking is about taking the power of having over 100,000 restaurants on Toast and giving it to you as the restaurant operator so that you can understand how you're doing versus your peers, understand how your menu benchmarks, maybe your prices, maybe your sales performance, so that you can make better decisions about how to run your business. It's about bringing that cab experience that, not every customer of Toast has that opportunity to many more by sharing best practices across the whole community of 100,000 restaurants. So that's one that we're all super excited about. And of course, there's a little bit of AI in the background powering those insights. And then the next one is digital storefront, which is all about supercharging your digital footprint, your website, your online ordering, bringing in SEO, connecting it to Google, really bringing all of that power to the average restaurant who can, stand up a website really quickly and start doing digital commerce on Toast. And then the third one is a refreshed marketing suite. And the piece of that we're most excited about is there's an AI writing assistant who helps write your emails and your campaigns and your copy and make sure that you've got the right marketing campaigns at the click of a button. I actually would like this for Toast marketing too.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Things we're looking at for ourselves.
You said that you have a network of other CMOs and other chief marketing officers. What do you do to continue to learn and continue to grow?
Yeah. So, talking to people both in similar roles to me, but also across the restaurant ecosystem is kind of job number one, right? So something that I've been doing is meeting with other heads of marketing across all different tech companies to say, what are you working on? One of the topics is how are you using AI? How are you thinking about brand? How are you thinking about social? So those are some of the things that I try and talk to my peers about on a regular basis. For example, I talked to a peer at another company last week, and we're both kind of testing out some new tools. And we said, okay, we're going to check back in 2 months and say, what were your results? What were my results? Share those learnings, and you get fresh ideas, fresh perspectives, sometimes a gut check as to, whether you're headed in the right direction. And then, I also think talking to restaurateurs is a really important part of continuing to learn and grow. I didn't grow up in the industry. I worked college jobs in restaurants just like everyone else, but I don't have the same experience working in restaurants as all of our customers do. And so learning from them what it's like day in, day out, what challenges they're facing, because those change. The challenges we were all facing 3-4 years ago as far as going digital, surviving in a COVID world, we're back in a different environment. And so staying up to date as to what's happening in the industry, what are our customers dealing with, what new technologies are they trying, how are they thinking about their business is a big part of kind of continuing to keep it fresh for myself and my team. And I'd say the last thing is we all need coaches, right? None of us are finished products. And so making sure you've got the right coaching, someone to help keep you accountable, someone to talk to when you're working through a leadership challenge, a mentor, whatever it is.
How do you ask for help?
Often.
How did you learn the skill?
How did I learn that skill? For me, when I get into trouble is when I don't ask for help. And so I often find myself, heading down a path or struggling with something on my own and thinking, Kelly, you have to go get help, talk to someone who's done this before, find a way to, get more people involved, because that's usually when you're most successful. And I found that over the years, it's become more and more of my default motion to say, not what do I need to do, but who do I need to make this project successful, to make this initiative successful, to learn this new thing, to figure something out. It's usually about bringing the right people together and having the right conversation. so that you're not kind of struggling on your own. There's very few problems in marketing or business that someone else hasn't faced before. And so I find that reaching out to others first often helps you kind of short circuit figuring out the solution to your own problem.
Now that you're chief marketing officer, when you look back on this interview and you think big picture of what you want to build, what you want to accomplish, the vision for marketing for Toast, what's the big vision?
The big vision for marketing for Toast. You know, marketing is, it's about the brand. So one of the things I think about is the responsibility that comes with taking ownership of a brand like Toast. You know, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal now.
It's a big deal.
The funny story is Will Eppard, who is
Yeah.
our sales rep, who we love and is partly
Always have to have a Will shout
He
out.
will always be responsible for why we get to do all this incredible stuff with Toast. But his story of walking into restaurants in San Diego with the Toast logo, and the restaurant owner told him, "It's okay, we already have Cisco.
We have bread.
We already have Cisco. We don't need Toast." And Cisco's a food distributor,
Yeah.
and Toast doesn't do food distribution.
We don't do
Not
food
yet.
distribution. No, not yet. I don't think, you know, we're very happy partners of US
Yes,
Foods.
but now the brand is very well known in the restaurant community
It
and
is.
outside in the greater
It's-
community.
you
You have a
know-
big responsibility. Boston is very proud of Toast, as they should be.
It is. And, you know, sometimes I think I must be biased in my community because my friends all tell me, oh, I order on the Toast app and I use Toast. And of course, they're my friends, so they have to say that. But it's not just a restaurant brand, but consumers interact with it. The Boston tech community is an important part of our story as well. And so thinking about how do you be the steward of the brand and where does the brand go from here? And so we have the opportunity to keep a lot of the amazing things that are part of our brand history, which are an important part of our story, the way we were founded, you know, being really rooted in independent restaurants, and then evolving that to include, you know, more of the types of restaurants we're serving today, larger brands, hotel restaurants, and bringing them into the brand story as well. So that's one thing we're thinking a lot about is how do we involve the brand to include all types of restaurants, you know, that are everyone who's selling food on Toast. And then, you know, from a team perspective, it's about how do we create a destination for marketing talent, you know, both within our industry and across the industry so that, you know, people can build incredible careers, do their best work of their careers here, really grow their marketing chops, come have fun, work with the best customers out there. You know, it should be that, you know, marketing to hospitality is a blast. And so why wouldn't you as a B2B marketer want the opportunity to tell the Toast story? So that's a big part of how I'm thinking about the Toast marketing team as well. And then finally, you know, come up with that next campaign that helps, you know, make Toast and our customers more successful and really grounding the marketing in the restaurant community and in the hospitality story. That's what's going to make our restaurant partners successful and make Toast marketing successful as well.
We are obviously very biased about Toast. We are so grateful for the opportunity to share incredible storytellers all across the hospitality space, restaurant space, this content that we get to do for entrepreneur, for restaurant influencers, but also Family Style, which we'll put a link to our Family Style series, which is on YouTube, which allows us to actually travel to some incredible brands. We're filming season 2, which we are grateful for. If you guys want to keep in touch with me, it's at Shawn P. Walchef, ShawnPWalchef. Kelly, what's the best way for people to keep in touch with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Kelly Sennett Eston, or on Instagram at Kelly Sennett, actually. I've been around for a long time on Instagram.
Well, thank you
got
so much. We're going to put links into the show notes. If people want to learn more about Toast, what's the best you have so many landing pages.
Toasttab.com. You got it.
There it is, toasttab.com. This is, and if you're in Boston, I don't know, how do you guys don't do tours of Toast. If you're a Toast customer,
If you're a Toast customer,
you're
you
a
can
Toast customer, you
definitely
can
have
definitely
a tour
have
of
a
Toast
tour.
or a Toast prospect.
there you go, or a Toast prospect.
You want to think about coming to Toast? Well, we'd love to have you at the office.
There it
to
is.
Host you.
There's the invitation.
Yeah.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much. As always, stay curious, get involved. Don't be afraid to ask for help. We'll catch you guys next week. Thank you for listening to Restaurant Influencers. If you want to get in touch with me, I am weirdly available at Sean P. Walchef, ShawnPWalchef. Cali Barbecue Media has other shows. You can check out Digital Hospitality. We've been doing that show since 2017. We also just launched a show, season 2, Family Style, on YouTube with Toast. And if you are a restaurant brand or a hospitality brand and you're looking to launch your own show, Cali Barbecue Media can help you. Recently, we just launched Room for Seconds with Greg Majewski. It is an incredible insight into leadership, into hospitality, into enterprise restaurants and franchisee relationships. Take a look at Room for Seconds. And if you're ready to start a show, reach out to us, betheshow.media. We can't wait to work with you.